Hello my darling friends, welcome to my channel, welcome to a new video, and welcome to a continuation of my favorite series that I post on here, which is reading books from subscription boxes. And I do this every few months where I wait until I have 3 months of a book box in, and then we do a little video reading a few of them and just kind of going over it and seeing if, if I'm happy with the way that my money is being spent. And, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched any of the others, for the most part, no, I'm not really happy with it. So welcome to today's video where we're going to be looking at illumicrate books. So if you didn't know, illumicrate is a UK based subscription where every month you get a new fantasy or sci-fi release, and they tend to range from YA to adult. There's also, so I personally get a book only subscription, but you can also get a subscription where you get 4 to 5 items every month, and they're beautiful. I really like the items. I just found I was having too many of them in my house, so instead I just get the book only. And no, for the most part, I this year have not been having the best luck with my illumicrate books. I feel like of all the subscriptions I get, this is the one where I'm feeling a little disappointed, and I feel like I've been slightly let down by a lot of the releases. And by that I just mean like the majority of the books that I've read have been like 2 or 3 stars. I might be wrong, but I don't think I've had a 5-star read yet from illumicrate, and I'm really disappointed. I'm not super happy, and it's really making me reevaluate how I want to do what I want to do with this subscription going forward. I'm really thinking I'm going to keep it, but really become liberal with my skips and really take advantage of not getting the months that I don't think I'll be interested in, which kind of seemingly quite a few of them. So let's run over the 3 books that I'm going to be reading this month, and I think they're July, August, September, I believe. Let's take a look at these 3 books. So first off, we have is Guardians of Dawn Zara by S.J. Jones. So they're a popular author who've written, there was the Winter Song duology in the past, which I do remember reading 5-6 years ago, and I enjoyed it quite a bit at the time, but I was also very early 20s, so that might be different. This one, it is YA, and we're in a realm where magic is forbidden. Magicians are called abominations and blamed for a plague of monsters that raise the land. So we're following a young girl who seems to have magical abilities, and she's starting to realize that and starting to get involved with this secret organization called the Guardians of Dawn, who are, I think they are secret magicians or somebody who's opposing the Empire, something like that. It looks cool. It looks cool. I feel like this is going to be very young. Unfortunately, that is my fear, is that I think that one is going to be a very young read for me. Then next we have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. This is definitely the one I'm most excited for, because Ava Reid is one of these authors that I think I'm going to love. She wrote 2 books previously. One of them is The Wolf and the Woodsman, which I hated. I tried to read twice, DNF'd it twice. And then Juniper and Thorn, which was definitely one of my top 10 favorite books I read last year. So I'm excited. It really has that opportunity to go either way. I could love it, I could hate it, but I'm really interested. Especially this is a dark academia in a magical type of world, and everything I'm hearing about it just makes it sound like very haunting and very beautiful, which is exactly how I would describe her writing, is that she has a very haunting style and she can get really atmospheric. I do think that this one is YA, which is my only fear about it, and I'm a little afraid that it might come off a little young. YA is not really my thing anymore, so I'm very hopeful about that one. And then I have After the Forest by Kel Wood. So in this one we're following Hans and Greta 20 years after they encountered a witch in a gingerbread house in a forest. They're really struggling to get by. Their country is in the ruin and people are starving after a war. But Greta, this entire time, she's had a secret, in that she has this grimoire that she stole from that witch. It has a recipe inside that makes the best gingerbread you've ever tasted. As long as she can bake, Greta can keep her small family afloat. So I think it's just kind of a story about dark magic kind of returning to these woods, and Greta keeping these secrets and trying to not let anybody know that she's actually a witch. So I'm definitely excited to get into these. I think A Study in Drowning is going to be my favorite, and I think Zara might be my least favorite. It's from what I'm hearing and what I feel, I think it's going to be a little bit too young for me, but I do have a really good feeling about A Study in Drowning, or at least I'm really hopeful. So I'm going to get started on these and then I will check it. Okay, so I've gotten just about halfway into Guardians of Dawn, and actually I'm not even sure if it's Guardians of Dawn, Zara, just Zara. I don't really know how the naming convention goes on this, but it's okay. It's like very young, like I was really afraid of, and I feel like all the characters are just reading as very young and very silly, and just, I'm gonna say it again, young. Like it just feels like this is almost more middle grade than YA. Like there's not really anything happening that makes it feel like it's for anybody, like teen even. So in this world, magic's outlawed, and we're following a girl, Zara, who has magic and is trying to figure out more information about it. So because it's outlawed, she's never been able to figure out anything. She's never been able to learn how to use it or find other people who have it. But she gets involved with this society called Guardians of Dawn, and they are like secret magic users who are opposing the current regime and trying to kind of bring magic back, not even bring it back, but just trying to create a safe haven for those magic users. And she's kind of getting involved with them. At the same time, she's been kind of interacting with the scholar who she presumes is a scholar, but is actually the crown prince. And his younger brother is also a magic user, so he is trying to work alongside these magicians as well to kind of find a way to help him. And as it's going on, they're just that's kind of it right now. They're just trying to figure out a bit more about magic and figure out what's going on in the kingdom. So I think there's definitely parts that are keeping me interested. Like I'm very curious to see where it goes, but the writing is so young that it is really taking me out of the story. And there's nothing wrong with YA or middle grade. It's just not for me. It's not something I can really get invested in or really care about, or that I tend to love very often. Like it has to be a very spectacular YA book for me to be able to enjoy it. But yeah, it's just okay. I was really hoping that this would do more for me, but it ended up being just like so average, and I'm really disappointed. But first I'm going to show you my favorite thing, which is the alternate cover for this. So this is what's printed on the hardcover, and it's like this book within the story, like this romance book that's really popular and people are talking about. It's called The Maiden Who Was Loved by Death, and I am obsessed with this cover. Like this is what I want to keep on my shelf, like even though it's not actually this book, but like I'm obsessed with that. It also, like, the vibe of that cover gave me a very different expectation of what we were going into. So I think that the world building was super interesting in this one, and that was really the forefront, the main runner for the things that I would say are good about this. Is that yes, the world building was cool. It was an interesting setting. This whole thing about magic being outlawed, that is always interesting to me. So that is kind of the thing that did it for me, and not much else did though, unfortunately. So I was kind of saying before, the characters all felt incredibly young and incredibly naive, and just this felt like a very younger end of YA, and because of that I really struggled to connect with it, because that's not my thing. I'm much more phasing, I guess I would say I'm very much phasing out of the YA area, the YA time of my life, and I'm really struggling to connect with these types of books. And this was a very strong example of it, where just because of how young these characters felt, I couldn't connect with any of them, and it didn't really make me emotionally invested in any of what was happening. Then I also just found that the story, while it started off on a very interesting point, and it did have some things that definitely intrigued me and wanted me to keep going, it didn't have enough to really keep me interested in wanting to propel forward in the story, and not enough things that captured my attention. I felt like a lot of the plot points felt repetitive, and what was new just wasn't that great. So I'm really disappointed in this, and really sad that I didn't actually like it. I think this is a very good example of a book that I never ever would have picked up if not for the subscription, and one that in the future is reminding me to be more selective about which books I get, and to use that skip function liberally to actually look into the books that I'm getting, because I think if I had done any research into this one I would have chosen not to get it. And I really this is reminding me that yes, in the future I need to really exercise caution with what books I'm buying, because there's no need for me to own this. And then, is the edition pretty? Yes, but my primary thing that I like is this alternative cover that isn't really related to the book itself. And is that enough of a reason to justify buying this? No, not really. Like, I don't think that in my mind I could justify spending money in a book I didn't like if it's pretty. Like, I'm starting to really feel like I should start really liberally skipping these editions that I'm not liking, and definitely pay more attention to the books that are coming out every month. And like, there's all of these spoiler pages online, and I really need to start like looking at those and looking up the book, looking up the description, and deciding which ones I don't want. Because yeah, I'm not a fan. Nothing overly wrong, just young and not very interesting. So I'll give it a 3 star. I was like kind of hovering around like a 2, a 2.5. So we'll say 2.5 and round up to a 3. So it's on the okay end, just very forgettable, very, like, I don't think I'm ever really going to think about this again. So now I am going to be starting A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, which I'm really excited for this one too. It's like more dark academia. We're kind of dealing with like this like fantasy author who writes these stories about like a mysterious fairy king and a young girl who is brought in to like as an architect to go design his like his new house or something. So I'm really interested in it. Again, the only thing that scares me is that it's YA. So I'm a little concerned about if I will connect with it as much, because I've read 2 Ava Reid books before, which I think I've seen before, but the Wolf and the Wolfsman I think was YA, and that one I did not like at all. And then Juniper and Thorn I'd say is definitely adult, because it really delved into these like really horrific and like really disturbing topics, and I love that one. I thought it was amazing. So I'm not really sure where this one is gonna land on that spectrum. Kind of hoping it gets a little creepy, because like it sounds like it's going to be like an isolated area. This writer who deals with like magical creatures, maybe they're actually real, like maybe it's going to get into like this creepy magical horror kind of area, and I'm really hoping that it does. I'm absolutely loving this so far, and like I feel so relieved that this is actually one so far that's like working this well for me, because I was so scared going into it that this would, I don't know, like be more on the realm of The Wolf and the Wolfsman, because it is more YA, which I think that one was too, and it just, yeah, I'm loving it. The atmosphere, fantastic. So in this, we're following a young university student in this magical world. So she is one of the few women at this university. She's in fact the only woman who's been accepted to the architecture program. She had really wanted to go into this like classic literature, or like more literature, I guess, focus field, but in this world it is considered too difficult for the poor women's minds, and that literature is something that is way too complicated for them, so there's no possibility of them joining that faculty. So instead she's in architecture, which is not her passion by any means, but she considers it to be like the second most prestigious school at this like college, and it's kind of like, well, I guess this is the next best thing to her. So while she's at the school, her favorite author growing up, he's recently passed away, but his estate has released this competition for somebody to come and like redesign his estate, but with the like image of his books and his works in mind. And he's written a lot of these like really fantastical fairy books, like a lot of them about like the fairy king and like this romance and all of these things. And she decides to apply. And then despite being a first-year student, she is accepted to come and work on the redesign of this building. So that in itself, it's kind of like, why is she the one selected? But then she goes to this world and this estate, and it's in this like really isolated, like, I'm picturing it like oceanside on a cliff, like really dangerous kind of atmospheric, kind of creepy setting. And she is there designing, like working on this design, but also kind of getting involved in this mystery to try and figure out like well, she gets drawn into this mystery by another scholar who is there writing a book, and it kind of gets into this mystery of, was this author actually the one who wrote the books? Because there's not a lot of proof, but there's some things that are kind of seemingly saying that he's not the one who actually wrote this book, that maybe somebody else in his life wrote it and he just took the credit. So she's getting involved in this, and I don't know what about it, but the atmosphere, like, I'm gonna keep saying that the atmosphere is one of the absolute best that I've read in a while, and it is just like already hauntingly beautiful, and I'm getting so incredibly drawn into this story and getting so invested, and I'm so curious to see where it goes, because it's not quite magical, but there's just these like little hints of maybe there is magic in this world, and maybe things aren't fully what we are seeing. Like maybe our narrator like isn't fully telling us the story, or like she's seeing things maybe that aren't there, and it's just like this little hint of like eeriness. Yeah, and it's just like the whole vibe of this manor, it's giving off the impression that something isn't quite right, and I'm just so into it. I'm so excited to see where it's going and like figure out exactly what's happening. Okay, I finished this off, and I'm so happy. I am like so incredibly happy at how much I love this. It just like gave me everything I wanted, everything I was hoping for, and like I could not be more pleased and impressed with what it gave. So much of the story is set at this like isolated house of this former novelist who wrote these like epic fairy tale stories, and we're following our two main characters. Like, so it's Effie, who is the architecture student, and a literature student named Preston, who is also there trying to do research, as the two of them kind of team up to start looking into this like potential mystery or controversy that like there's been rumors for many years that maybe this author wasn't actually the one who wrote these books. So Effie ends up getting like pulled into this investigation just because she gets really interested to kind of see what the result is, and the two of them are just going off on this like crazy adventure to try and figure out all of these things. And at the same time, there's just like a little undercurrent of like things are not quite all right at this manor they're staying in, and like there's just some kind of undercurrent of like there might be magic, there might be something else at play, like there's just something a little creepy and unsettling, and it was wonderful. Like, I know I was saying earlier that like the atmosphere was amazing and one of the best parts, and like yeah, that still falls through. Like this absolutely had some of the most truly like beautiful yet kind of unsettling, kind of eerie atmosphere, and it was exactly what I was hoping for this book. It like really gave me everything that I wanted, and I am like intensely happy with it. I feel like this once again is just settling for me that yes, Ava Reid is an author that I really like. Yes, I am very impressed with the stuff that she does, and even though her first book didn't work for me, that might just be it was her first book, and you know, they just keep getting better and better. So I loved it. Really happy with this one. It is only going to be a 4-star. It wasn't just like quite there for a 5, but it was still exceptionally good, and like really happy that we did get this one in the box. And then I just need to share the edition. So it has all the pages, which like makes so much sense because we're talking about books, and this is the hardcover of the book. So it's like the architectural designs almost. This is beautiful. Like just so much of it really gives like that academia type of style that I love. And then I just need to share the edition. So it has all the pages, which like makes so much sense because we're talking about books. And this is the hardcover of the book. So it's like the architectural designs almost. This is beautiful. Like just so much of it really gives like that academia type of style that I love. Okay, I am done the final book, which is After the Forest. So let's just take a moment to appreciate this issue. There is a bear in the story, so that's there. This is the inside artwork. So our main character makes gingerbread. That is that. And then this is really pretty. I love when they do this like artwork on the cover and the spine and everything. So in this book, we are basically following Hansel and Gretel as they are adults. Like this is years, I don't know, 10-15 years after they go through the whole adventure with the witch and everything, and they are living out their lives in their small village. So the setting is like, I don't know, like 1600s Europe. They're in a small village. Their parents have passed away at this point, and the two of them are just trying to survive. They're Hans and Greta. Hans has a terrible like gambling problem problem. I think it's gambling, but he's in debt with like everybody in the town. And they're kind of reaching this point where it's debtors are starting to call in everything, and they're starting to get a little desperate because it seems like they're about to lose their farm. So Greta, when they went through this ordeal with the witch, she took this like magical spell book from her, and with it she's able to make this gingerbread that is like the best in the world. Like everybody is obsessed with this gingerbread. It always like sells like crazy, and it's one of the primary ways that they actually make money. So she starts like trying to sell it to like get their family debt, and also at the same time starts to kind of start to get this reputation as being a witch, and also get involved with these witches and shifters in her village, and starts to get involved in this like plot by an evil witch who has been around for hundreds of years and has been like controlling the land. So she finds out about this plot and starts to work against her, and along the way falls in love with a shifter, and spends like a big part of her story is just trying to reconcile like if she is a witch and what type of witch she wants to be, because there's like nature witches, then blood witches who are bad, and all this stuff. So that was like the main crux of the story, is just that she's a witch and she's trying to find a way to live in her village and be accepted and figure out who she is. Overall, I did like this one. I definitely did like it. It just wasn't really that memorable or that exciting. Like, it was a decent story, but it didn't really have anything that gripped me, and nothing that I really like got that invested about. I didn't love the characters, like none of them. There's none that I actually really cared about, and I don't know, it just like something about this didn't like really click for me. So overall, it was okay. It's a 3-star, and it was decent. I did enjoy it. I just didn't love it. I guess I enjoyed it. I didn't like deeply like it or something. So yeah, it's another 3-star read. So this episode was decent, I guess. Like, we had 2 3-star reads and a 4-star, which I guess I'll take like as good, because there has been so many times in the past where I have like a lot of 3 and 2 stars. So I guess this is better than usual, but still at the same time not great. So yeah, this kind of, it's disappointing. I'm not super thrilled, and yeah, again, I'm just kind of disappointed on how this went. Once again, I feel like, I don't know, illumicrate books are not fully living up for me, and just something about it isn't quite working. So yeah, there we have it. That is the end of this week's video, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.